Incredible. So, yeah, just talk about the journey and what that decision making was like for you.
I mean, the journey's wild. Like when they told their story about how the book landed on them with Kelly Crabb, it made me really proud of Kelly Crabb because it's, for me, it kicks off with my uncle. I'm trying not to say the same thing everywhere I go, and I guess the best way to put it here would be, growing up the way I did, growing up where I did, I was a fish out of water. I was a Polynesian boy growing up in the mountains. And the one thing that I had, it was kind of an identity thing sometimes going on. And my uncle was always the one. He was living in Hawaii, and you'd go see him, and he was always the one saying, "No, your skin's beautiful. No, be proud of this. Be proud." And so he became just a powerful part for me. And then he made the statue of Duke, and it seemed like every time I went to Hawaii, I had to go see it, because it's like, look, this thing's like, my uncle made a famous thing. And he would tell me the stories of Duke, and he would teach me about Duke. And Duke was a superhero. He was like, and one of my fears of this was like killing some of the cool legends in my head, but they're all true. So it made it easier. But I'd say like the driving force for me started with that, with like, how do I make Hawaii proud? How do I make Duke proud? And how do I make my uncle proud? Because right before he died, he had told me my career had taken off. I was doing music videos for Imagine Dragons, if you want to see some of those, and yeah, hey, those are my boys. No one knock them. And so he told me, he's like, you should chase the story of Duke, and that's kind of where it went. That's when I found the book WATERMAN, and then I started going to people that I knew, and that's how it ended up with Kelly and made its round, which is really cool to hear the whole story when I finally put it all together, because I kind of played this like a surfer. I just took the wave coming at me and said, I'll ride that. And then I went for it, So it's kind of how it went. And hearing the story is actually really cool. But my original suggestion was to make a movie. And so when I had originally come up with my original concept of this, it was to play Slumdog Millionaire style with This Is Your Life, and to kind of tell the story of Duke. And then they were the ones who were like, hey, we think we should do a doc. And I'm like, I'll do the doc. So it was like, that's kind of how it went. But I was like, but I want to make recreations that feel like we're watching a movie. Because this guy's a superhero. I want him to look like Superman, and I love movies. And so even when I'm watching a doc, I still want a little bit of a movie in it, So, and the one thing Duke wanted that he never really got was Hollywood. So it was like, and that's why I loved it. They were so on board for him. Like, let's get an orchestra. Let's give it everything. Let's give Duke a Hollywood. And so that's what happened with this thing. And luckily, we had the guiding light of This Is Your Life, a cool little bookend moment with...
It was such an incredible thread throughout. It really was like this catalyst.
Yeah.
It was the spine of the film, and it was so nice to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to ask David, when we talk about stories, especially here at a film festival, it's always about the story. Everyone wants to be the storyteller, but what is it? Is there something at the core of Duke's story that you immediately gravitated towards?
Yeah, I think when we first were told about Duke and the possibility of making a film, my initial reaction was, oh yeah, I know Duke. There's a restaurant in Malibu where I live, and there's, he's a great Hawaiian surfer. But someone said, no, you got to read this book, WATERMAN. And it was, we were just blown away by the story. And one of the things that really resonated was this whole spirit of aloha, which, listen, I've been to Hawaii 50 times, and aloha to me always just meant, hello, goodbye. I never realized that it's a way of life, a spirit, the love, and really how you approach other people. And and we really, when we make a film like this, we didn't want it to be only historical. We wanted it to have contemporary relevance. And so we really need aloha in our lives today. With all the racial divides, the political divides, I think the world needs more aloha. And I know it's impacted me personally. I've had situations where I'm about to react to something in a negative way because something happened the way I didn't like it, and I find myself checking myself and thinking about Duke and just aloha spirit, and I just pause and I react in a different way, and it usually ends up being more positive than it would have been otherwise. So I think people can learn from the film, and that's one reason we made it.
It's totally agree, and it's fun when you watch some of the clips from the archives, which, by the way, the archive dive on this was just, it's unparalleled. It's so impressive. But I want to get into you mentioned superheroes, and then I want to, Duane, you played the part of a superhero. We're talking characters of, Fable, but it's not Fable. All the stuff he did, he actually did. So maybe talk about what you had kind of like on the weight of your shoulders, because you want to do Duke right, but you also have to do Hawaii right. It's equally a pretty heavy load, right?
Definitely daunting. I didn't even want to do it, to be honest. My wife forced me to do it. I told her, I don't think it should be me, and I shouldn't do it. And when you think about it in general, does he appreciate what happened afterwards? Does he appreciate how it came out? We don't really know. It seemed like it turned out amazing because this show is amazing. I've seen it 5 times and I cry every time watching the storyline. And honestly, every single time I touch the board or touch the water, I try to put myself in his presence. I wanted him there so that I could at least come at least close as possible. I really took it serious, you can't feel his shoes, literally and figuratively, but at least this story is going to go around the world again and again and again due to this show, guys, and I really appreciate that.
And I think it's important to say too, especially with this year's Coast Film Festival, there's been so many movies with this underlying theme of what we just watched with, Girls Can't Surf. There's the sexism, and then there's also the racism that we watch in this film, what he overcame. So maybe I just want to open it up and get some perspective on how you guys decided to tackle that and kind of bring it to light in a way that was, timely and in good taste.
I think it's very, 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 very relevant right now. Because one of the things I've noticed is like, when you look at the way the hardest part about Duke is that the ripple effect is the most amazing part. So he didn't get the actual rewards right away and everything he did. But he showed a way that you can change the entire world by being nice. And I think a lot of people, I've never seen someone change their mind when they're getting yelled at. And Duke found a way. It's the wildest thing that, what I love about this, what I love about the story is that he was seen as revolutionary using cultural things that were thousands of years old. So he was doing things that had already been there, and I feel like that exists today. And that's one thing I feel. I mean, he should have been mad. He could have been mad, but instead he became a hero to the country that he could have been mad at. And it's an amazing thing to me. It really is. So from my point of view, and thanks to help to my producers constantly making sure I heard it well, aloha. Like when you really hear just this simple what aloha really means, Duke put it at the end. Duke made it his creed. That's how you can change the world.
If I can ask Billy, and I know you're tight with a lot of the extended family. We talk about doing good for Hawaii, doing good for Duke. What's been kind of the immediate response and their reaction to this movie? And I know a lot of love, a lot of passion went into it, but maybe you can share some some get back that you've heard about it.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of love and a lot of passion. They're a deep family, and as you could see the sentiment shared in the film, there was a lot of exploitation. I mean, think on the simplest level. Duke was an incredible athlete, but as an amateur, the power brokers of the land at the time wanted to maintain him as an amateur so that they could keep the glory for USA. Now, what happens with that? USA does good because he's just a superior athlete, looks incredible, but at the end of the day, he's not making an income, and he really goes home as a famous person, but with very modest or almost no means. And, spent quite a bit of his life with debt, but was cared for and so beloved. That was the message, and I think this film has helped to have a breakthrough. Not with all. I know there's several Kahanamokus that live here, but the ones that are in Hawaii, I have a close relationship with. And initially, that issue of exploitation, that issue of celebrating him, but someone else profiting off it, was always a concern. I think what they found with Sidewinder's ability to make this film